I'll start. Oh, it says I cannot share.
Okay, look, just a second. Now you should be.
Yeah. No, I can. Oh, okay.
Murat, do you want to do a quick introduction
So
of
yeah, I
Aizada
want
for
to
those
do,
who are
yeah,
going
let
to
me
watch
do
the
a quick,
recording?
very brief introduction, and I'm pretty sure Alma can explain more about Aizada can explain more about Alma. So Aizada, she is a CEO and co-founder of Alma, who uses now novel technology, AI technology, to revolutionize immigration process. Previously, she worked also at the law firm, and she worked at the consulting business, if I'm not mistaken, right? She holds an MBA from Harvard Business School. Am I right? Or Stanford?
I went to Harvard Law School.
Harvard Law School. And the rest, I think you can tell more about it. The floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me here today. Happy to present and share the knowledge. Let me just share it for the entire. Okay, cool. So I'm the CEO and founder of Alma. We founded Alma October last year. Prior to that, I was a management consultant at McKinsey San Francisco. And prior to that, I used to work for one of the biggest law firms in the US called Cooley. And yeah, before that, I was in London, went to Harvard Law School, did my undergrad in Kyrgyzstan. So I've been around the places. And last year, Alma was started. And this is not so relevant to your group, but what are the problems that we're trying to solve in immigration space? It's of course high cost, poor access to quality services, and lengthy processes. You're all immigrants, you've been through this process, and it shouldn't have to be this complex, especially for highly skilled individuals, because there are certain ways how highly skilled individuals can get their visas, and it doesn't have to be that complex. And the reason is that Alma is founded from experience, because I myself in 2018 went through a horrible immigration experience where an immigration law firm screwed up my case and I couldn't work for 1.5 years in the US. I couldn't leave the US. I was basically statusless. And it was a simple family immigration because my husband has a green card. He was at Stanford Business School, and it was a simple immigration. And as an attorney, I always trust attorneys because I don't want to mess up things. So, and someone messed it up. And what I've learned about the immigration space is that literally, to your point, there may be few immigration law firms that people know. Beyond that, it's so hard to find good immigration law firms, even though there are 20,000 plus immigration law firms in the US. So the space is super fragmented. And when the space is fragmented, it makes it harder to find really good immigration attorneys. So in 2018, I was super stressed, but luckily for me, my husband was at Stanford Business School. So I attended classes with him and I loved it so much. And I thought I should be a founder. So this is when I decided to move from legal to business and I went to McKinsey. Fast forward last year, we founded Alma. Asel is my co-founder. She's from Kazakhstan. I approached her when I had the idea, did the customer discovery calls and had the idea what I want to do. I've known Asel for 2.5 years. She's amazing, smart, hardworking. So I approached her and I said, Asel, let's do this together. So she quit her job very quick. She made a decision within a week. She joined me and we started building Alma. And here's happy Asel with her O1A approved. And now we're filing for her EB1. We raised a 5.5 million. We're backed by leading investors, Blink Capital, Forerunner, NFX, Conviction Village, NEA, many others. This is our co-founder, third co-founder, Shuo. Shuo also has an amazing background. He graduated from Tsinghua University, worked at Uber during Travis Kalanick, was a senior director of AI ML engineering at a Series B startup. So we got him. And Asel, of course, you all probably know that she went to Harvard Business School. She did her undergrad in Columbia. And so this is our team. Right now, our team is around 15 people. We have 3 attorneys, 2 paralegals, and the remaining are engineers. And why Alma is different. So when I used to work at Cooley, my hourly rate was, when I was leaving, $900 an hour. $900 an hour. And I didn't work on immigration. I worked on all the corporate finance matters, banking and finance, and clients used to pay me a lot of money for my advice, right? And I always questioned, like, why legal advice is so expensive in the US. It's insane, and only big corporations can afford quality services. So what we're doing at Alma, we're bringing high quality legal services to immigration. There are three pillars that we focus on. It's speed, excellence, and care. So speed is we move the fastest in the market. For example, when we work with clients, they provide us with all the evidence. We tell them this is what you need to provide. If they provide us with anything, and some take 2 days, some take 2 weeks, some take a month. It really depends on a client. But since the moment we get all the documents, we draft all the documents on our end within 2 weeks. Within 2 weeks, we will be ready to file your case, because we understand that, it's like immigration is always deadline associated. And if you don't file on time, then there's like long wait times and everything. So we try to move super fast. Second is excellence. We focus on high quality. That's the most important to us, because all of us are immigrants. We've been through this journey. Asel, Shuo, and I, three of us together, have held around 15 visas together, three of us. And we know this experience sucks. So we want to make sure that other immigrants have a joyful experience. We've hired an attorney who has 100% of approval rate throughout his almost 10 years of experience. He used to work at a big law firm called Kramer Levin. He used to charge like 20,000 for O1s and around 30, 35 for EB1s, like super expensive. But we hired him, and with the venture funding we have, we can pay really good salary to our attorneys. And the beauty of Alma is that you always talk to an attorney. You never talk to paralegals. Paralegals might be doing some work in the background, but our clients always talk to attorneys, because paralegals cannot give you any advice. They're not attorneys. They did not go to law school. They don't have a license to practice law. At Cooley, clients never talk to paralegals. So I'm bringing that business model of big law firms to immigration. And our clients are super happy that only attorneys are corresponding with them, communicating with them, working on their documents, which gives them peace of mind. And as a company, we also have 100% approval rate so far. And care. What care really means is that, like, we really understand what immigrants are going through. It's not simply a number for us. We care. And also, like, we have a lot of clients from Central Asia, so we really care. We want them to have successful cases. And when you use our platform, everything is super intuitive. You go on our platform, you see all the steps that you need to finish, everything that you're doing, and I can show you the platform towards the end of the presentation. You can see what attorney is doing. Attorney can see what you're doing. You can ask questions there. Everything is in one place. No like lengthy different email chains. Everything really, really straightforward. So these are our attorneys. So this is me. I've already presented myself. This is MJ. She has 25 years of experience. She was a lead attorney at Deal, actually, Deal Immigration Legal Pad. So we've hired her from there. And Luke, he's the one who used to work at Kramer Levin. And yeah, like Luke has 100% approval rate in his 10 years of experience across different visa types. And MJ, I think, has like 97% of approval rates across 25 years. So the stellar background of our immigration attorneys is super important. Okay, just a second. Oh, yeah, here we go. So the visas we support. Today, I'll be primarily talking about talent visas. We support all the company type visas as well: H-1B transfer, TN, L1, H-1B lottery, EB3. But for the purposes of this presentation, I want to talk about O1, EB1, and EB2 NIW visas. O1A, and I'll go in detail about each one. O1A, and quickly, maybe there are not very many people today on the call. Maybe I ask how many of you are interested in O1A versus like EB1 or EB2. Is anyone interested in O1A? Maybe we can skip and we can focus on EB1 and EB2 NIW more.
I'm not sure everyone knows.
O1A? Okay.
Yeah, so if you can a
Sounds
little
good.
bit give a brief introduction about it.
Yeah, sounds good. Then I'll just go and oh, where did my screen go? Just a second. Yeah, then I'll just go and talk about O1A visa. So O1A visa, this is a non-immigrant visa, which means it's not a green card. It's given for 3 years. It's a job authorization. And this visa, it's the easiest one to get among O1 visas. By nature of what you do, if you get a job offer, you immediately usually qualify for O1A. People who have PhDs, they immediately qualify. O1A visa is very, very similar to EB1A visa, but it's easier to get. So there are 8 criteria, national or international awards. And with you, usually, if you have gotten some government grants, scholarships for your PhD, that counts. University awards count less so, unfortunately. For example, from Europe, we've had people who had like this Marie Curie scholarship to go to Oxford. And because Marie Curie scholarship it's EU scholarship, European Union scholarship, that you can go to any university, Cambridge, LSE, Oxford, whatnot, it qualifies as a national award. But if it's a scholarship only given by, for example, Stanford, then USCIS might fight back and say, this is not a national award, this is just a university award. So Fulbright, Muskie, and similar scholarships would qualify. The next one, membership in professional associations, which require outstanding achievements for acceptance. So membership is like two important pieces. It has to be some, major professional organization. And second, it has to be super selective. So it cannot be an organization that just takes everyone. For example, we've had people from Kazakhstan. There is this like competitive coders association. And if you are not a member, but in the presidium of that association, that worked for the purposes of O1A. So if they're tiered memberships, it's like regular member, senior member, you want to be a senior member. For example, for engineers, there's this organization called IEEE, which is an association, international association for engineers. You have to be a senior member. For senior member, you need to have 10 years of overall experience, PhD counts toward experience, and then you would need a recommendation of 3 existing IEEE recommenders. So those kind of memberships would actually count. Also, memberships for PhDs actually would work is that like if you are a member of a group, a working group on certain particular thing, research, right, or something, then we can also attribute that membership to you. For example, like at your university, you got a grant and you're a member of this working group that is researching something, and your research spans across 3 years, whatnot, and it's under some famous professor. We could also argue that this is a membership because this professor doesn't really select everyone, but they're like selective in their who do they select as a member of the group. Third one is published material about you or your work in professional or major trade publications or other media. So this is 2. One is about publication about you. Second is publication about your work. So, and the beauty is that it doesn't have to be in the US specifically. It can be in Kazakhstan. If in Kazakhstan, for example, Forbes Kazakhstan, and you talk about your PhD research, I know a lot of like PhD researchers, a lot of people who are in science don't necessarily go and promote themselves because you think, oh, why would I need it? Like, but you might need it for visa purposes. So if, for example, you know someone at Forbes and they're like, hey, we'd like to talk about your PhD research, right? Like you can talk about what scholarship did you get? Was it difficult? How selective was it? Your recommendation about how to get the scholarship, and overall just talk about your research, right? Like what's the importance and significance of your research? How is it going? Who do you work with? So basically get information about you out there. Forbes, Digital Kazakhstan, I don't know, there's STEP, many other publications. It doesn't have to be Kazakhstan, it can be Uzbek, Kyrgyz, Russian media publications as well. Second is about your work, because sometimes as you are working as part of the certain group, and there's some breakthrough or whatever, and you've been part of that research group and it got publicized, it does not mention your name, but you have been working on this project. So for these cases, what we do is that we get a letter from the lead researcher in that group who confirms and says like, yeah, Murat was part of this research group and we got this breakthrough which got publicized, and he was a critical and essential member of our team. So this is how we built this nexus, connect the link between the publication and you. The next one is original contribution of major significance to business, science, education, athletics. This is relatively easy, right, for researchers, because you're working on always something novel and scientific. Usually, if you have scholarly articles, there's always something novel, right? Like that's the purpose of doing a research. So then we talk about the originality of your contribution. If you by any chance decided to file a patent, that's even better. It can be approved patent. USCIS loves approved patents for EB1, but for O1, it can be provisional patent too. It doesn't have to be approved, but the fact that you filed it, they've accepted it and they're reviewing it, that can also work. The next one is scholarly articles, right? Scholarly articles in professional or trade publications. By the time you finish your PhD, you will have a lot of publications. And for example, for O1, we don't necessarily look for example, like H index or like for a lot of citations like we do for EB1. So scholarly articles in major professional publications, major media, that would work. The other one is employment in a critical or essential capacity for distinguished organizations. How we usually, PhD researchers, are able to qualify. A lot of you get some like teaching positions with the universities, right? If it's the university and you're doing a teaching position as part of your PhD, and you work for like one of the big universities, then we argue that this is a critical essential capacity working for distinguished organization. The next one is high salary or other significantly higher remuneration in relation to others in the field. So if you have gotten some research grant or like scholarship award that's higher than the average, that's what we argue that this is high salary. Key features. Key features are that there is no cap. There can be as many O1A visas issued in the US as qualified people apply. Initial stay is up to 3 years, and it's tied to your employer. But it can get extended in unlimited 1-year extensions. You can pursue a green card while on O1. So that's good part. There is no salary or degree requirement. For example, let's say for O1A, you got an offer from a research organization and it pays 60K. Guess what? It doesn't matter for O1A. You can be paid 30, 40K, doesn't really matter. You just need to have a job offer as a, part of the, I don't know, research. So like it has to be a job offer. And dependent visas available for spouses, for kids, and it's a pathway to EB1 green card. Premium processing is available. O1 is the fastest visa to get. Basically, from the time usually people start working with us to the time they get their O1s, it's usually 2 months. And people can adjust from one status to another without leaving the US. So if you're an F1, you automatically get your O1. I see there was a question in the chat. Oh yeah, I see. But the downside of this O1A visa is that, you have to have a job offer. And if you want to change your job, you need to reapply for O1A visa. And then spouse and dependent children cannot work. So that's the downside. But there's also a potential to work through an agent. It's called O1A agent. An O1A agent means that, For example, you got an offer from some research institution, but you're thinking, maybe I'll work there like 25 hours, but I also potentially want to work at another research institution, right? So I want to work at multiple places. I want to do multiple things. Maybe I teach there for like 20 hours. I work at another place for 25 hours. So then we can process your application through an O1A agent. O1A agent is that you pay additional like $750. We've engaged an agent. You can pay directly to them. But that flexibility means that you can work at multiple organizations, or if you change one of those organizations, you don't have to reapply for O1A. So that's the beauty of O1A visa. Is the job offer a requirement to apply for O1A or just good to have? It is a requirement, unfortunately, for O1A. Yes, is it O1A is usually sponsored by the employer? So that's a good question. We've seen it both ways. So companies come to us and they say we want to sponsor O1A of someone, or sometimes people come to us like this was my path as well, second path. I went to my law firm and I said, just give me a job offer, signed job offer. That's all I need. I'll just pay all the expenses myself. So I paid for O1A myself. They just gave me a job offer because the nuance there was that my company, the law firm, didn't really sponsor any work visas, but I wanted to work there. Working there, and of course, like the starting salary at this big law firm was insane. It was like more than 200K. So I was like, of course I'd pay for my own O1 visa, right? So I was like, I don't mind. Just give me the job offer. And with that job offer, I went to the law firm, immigration law firm, and then they started preparing my documents. So it can be both ways. Your employer can pay for it, or you can pay for it. But the one thing you need from the company is the job offer and signing of the support letter. Support letter, they don't have to worry. We prepare everything and they just put their signature. There's nothing, it costs nothing to them to sign it, basically. So that's a good question. So that's what I've seen. Like we've seen some also engineers doing that. They get a job, they go to the company and they say, this, you're a small company, I know you don't support, but I want to work with you. So I'm just going to cover my own visa expenses myself. And I'm gonna go through the pricing of O1A visa. So O1A visa in the market is around 10K legal fees plus USCIS fees. So at Alma, we until the end of December, we're running a discount program where we charge $6,000 for O1A visa. So if you know anyone, you should let them know because it's the cheapest in the market and we have really, really strong attorneys. And the reason we are doing that is that at Alma, we're a venture-backed startup. We're less so concerned about the profits yet, right? For us, it's more important to grow, get more clients, and build awareness about Alma. And the USCIS fees, there are two USCIS fees. One is for processing, regular processing, it's $830. And then there's premium processing, which if you pay premium processing, USCIS gets you a decision within 15 business days, and that costs additional $2,805. If you don't do the premium processing, then it might take USCIS to process your application from 2 to 7 months. That's why a lot of people on O1, they just decide to go premium processing because it takes forever otherwise. So that's O1A.
So, just to sum up, and the general question is, so having a job offer is not only, it's required, but that's not enough, right? So you said that you need to satisfy 3 of these criteria out of 8.
Correct. Correct.
So you have to be one of this. So let's say, for example, someone has a job offer from a company and wants to apply for O1 and not quite sure if they satisfies this. So should they still reach out to you and say, hey, this is my
Correct.
CV? What should I do?
Correct. So you see this QR code in my background as well. So what do we recommend? We offer free consultation with an attorney. where they will go 30 minutes for free, discuss your specific background. You, in advance, when you fill out this form with QR code, you share your LinkedIn and your CV. So before the call, attorney reviews all of your documentation, and then they come to the call, they ask you for more questions, and then towards the end of the call, they tell you, hey, you qualify this, this, and this, and this. These are your chances for O1A visa, EB1A visa, for EB2 and IW visa. So they give you what's the likelihood of you getting different types of visas, and from there you decide which one do you want. So we want to make sure that you speak to an attorney first before you decide to go on a different visa, on a specific type of visa. So that's how it works.
Great. Yeah. Okay. So I guess everyone heard, and scan the QR code and get a free consultation.
For sure. And then these are sample profiles, right? This one is like, for example, let's go through this AI research scientist for O1A. So this person is a principal researcher at DeepMind. For 8 years, she led projects on formal verification for robust and aligned AI systems. Now she's a head of AI safety at Anthropic. Previously, she did her postdoc at MIT, and she also did her PhD in computer science. She has around 20 publications in top conferences like NURIA, PS, IJCal, etc. So what are the criteria that she qualifies from the get-go? 4 criteria. Press coverage. She has numerous publications in top conferences. Original contributions. She did innovative work in self-supervised learning, explanatory AI, etc. Critical role. She was a principal researcher at DeepMind. She was also now head of AI safety at Anthropic. And then high compensation. She most likely had high salary at DeepMind, at Anthropic. These are the qualifications. To be honest, with this profile, she could just go for EB1 straight. But sometimes people are unsure if they want a green card right away, because green card comes with certain tax implications, right? Because if you have taxes out, if you have some income outside of the US, when you get a green card, you'll have to basically tell about all the income outside of the country. And sometimes permanent residency, it's a big step. So people are not quite sure. So they first go for O1A and then decide if they want to do EB1 or EB2. Then, okay, let's go. O1B visa. This is the visa for creative people, influencers, like TikTok influencers, producers, movie productions, singers, everything in that category. So we won't touch it today. But if you know any of these people, we also can help them. And this is the EB1 green card category. There are 3 EB1s, EB1A, EB1B, EB1C. So EB1A, it's very similar to O1, just like O1, but the evidentiary standard is higher. And what do we mean by there is like we actually look for your H index, and we want something above 5, H index of 5. If you look at someone's Google Scholar, we're like, okay, we want higher than 5. We also want more than like 1,000 citations, right? So that's EB1. And I can show you, let me quickly share. I can show you an example of great EB1 profile, but he doesn't want to do EB1 yet. He's actually our client, and we're working on his O1A case. This is Andrei Kim. Some of you might know him. He won gold, bronze, and silver at IMO, Mathematics Olympiad. He won all 3. He's from Kazakhstan. And look at his citations, like 4,000 citations, H index of 15, I-10 index of 16. So this is an incredible profile for EB1. He would get it right away. He also has 6 US patents, 6, and his name is always second on the patents. So when you file for a patent, we want you to be not number 15 in the patent listed names, but like first, second, or third. He's either first or second on all of his patents. So this is an incredible profile. And see, like the fact that he has more than 1,000 citations on one paper makes him the expert in homographic encryption. he's the expert in this space. So just by saying like he's extraordinary in this space in homographic encryption, like he would get in EB1 profile. But this is an amazing profile for EB1, but he didn't want an EB1. But yeah, I just showing you that someone from Kazakhstan is like has an amazing profile for EB1. Yes, and going back to the presentation. So this is EB1A. So it's exactly the same as O1A, but it's just higher evidentiary standard. So what we want to show here is that you have, risen to the like very small percentage in top of your field. So that's why like with Andrei, for example, it's easy because he has like one paper has 2,000 citations. But we want to show that you're in top of your field. And they also look at the totality of evidence. So in O1A, they're like, okay, you satisfy 3 criteria. But for EB1, they look at the totality of evidence. They look, are you like by totality of evidence truly extraordinary? So that's EB1A. EB1B, this is called outstanding professors and researchers. The nuance is that you need to have a job offer. For EB1A, you don't need a job offer. EB1A is self-sponsored. Andrei could have just applied and could have gotten it. No job offer. They don't even care if he's going to work in the US, right? They just want to give him a green card so that a smart person moves to the US and eventually they start working on something. But that's why they're not really immediately concerned that, oh, is he going to be on our welfare? Will he have money to basically survive in the US, right? They don't care. He's way too smart. US wants to have him. So that's EB1A. For EB1B, outstanding professor and researcher, they want a job offer from a US employer. And you have to have at least 3 years of experience in teaching or research. Good news, your PhD experience, like if you are doing a teaching position, whatnot, counts towards that as well. And you have to demonstrate international recognition, and there are 6 criteria. So out of this 6 criteria, you need to qualify for 4. First is receipt of major prizes, awards, scholarships, grants, very similar. Second, membership in selective associations, part of a working group in a specific field, press coverage of you or your work, participation as a judge of others. Participation as a judge of others, this is also eligible for EB1A, this is when you review manuscripts for journals. Sometimes like we see clients that they review a lot of manuscripts. Reviewing manuscripts is tough, right? And they don't just invite anyone to review the manuscripts. So having reviewed maybe like from 3 to 5 manuscripts, it's great. So that's the number you want to go for. You always want to go for not only for one evidence for each criteria. We want multiple. For awards, we want to show multiple awards. You got an award from here, scholarship from there. For manuscripts, we are like, okay, they've done couple of them, right? Press coverage, we don't want just singular coverage in Forbes Kazakhstan, we want more. So in every single criteria, we want evidence of like 2, 3. That's a good number. And then the fifth one, original scientific scholarly research, which it's easy to qualify for researchers on authorship of scholarly books or articles. Pretty easy as well. So, but you need to just qualify for 2 out of 6, and you need to have 3 years of experience of teaching or research. You need to have a job offer from US employer, and that employer needs to employ 3 full-time US employees as minimum. But that shouldn't be a problem for research organizations. So that's EB1B. EB1C is multinational executives and managers. That's requires a job offer, and it also requires that you have worked, for example, if someone worked at Coca-Cola or McKinsey in Kazakhstan as a, let's say, like associate partner or partner at McKinsey, and then they're moving to the US as a partner at McKinsey, they'll be eligible for EB1C. So it's intra-company transfer, the same company, but it has to be a multinational company, and you have to be a top executive. That's the requirement. So there are 3 categories, but category 2 and 3 they require job offer when the first one doesn't require job offer. That's why we highly encourage everyone, just go and try to qualify for the first one. Because, I mean, EB1 is the fastest. For nationals of India and China, the wait time is around 2 years. For anyone else, there is no wait time. So this EB1, a green card, consists of two parts. For O1, it's only one. For O1, you apply, you get your approval, done. You already changed from F1 to O1 if you're in the US. If you are abroad, you go to the consulate, you just put a stamp, you're done. But in green card, there are two steps. First, you get your EB1 approved, right? USCIS approves it, and they give you a notice. This has been approved. And EB1A, similar to O1, has premium processing. So it's $1,015 for regular processing, $2,805 for premium processing, and you get your decision within 15 days. But unfortunately, that's not enough. There's second part, which is called adjustment of status. This is what Murat went through. Adjustment of status, it's something we usually apply either together with your EB1 petition, or we apply immediately the day when your EB1 is approved. An adjustment of status has a couple of forms that you need to fill out for you if you have a family, for your family as well. And it can be done either in the US or it can be done abroad. But what we usually recommend is like you apply for it in the US, because the wait time for adjustment of status can range from like 4 to 12 months, depending on which service center you end up with. No one has control over which service center you will end up with. And that's very unfortunate. And this part cannot be expedited for any money. For example, Vermont is the fastest. 4 months, you're done. But like Nebraska, California, Texas, all of them, they're so slow. So it's luck, and you cannot control this process. But what we recommend is that like you apply for EB1 adjustment of status, also apply for a travel document so that you're not stuck in the US for the entire wait period, but you can freely travel in and out. That's what we recommend. And if your EB1 is approved and if you file for adjustment of status while being abroad, then when entering to the US, you might have problems entering the US. So it's a gray zone, right? Like they might ask you, they might not ask you, they might find out, they might not find out. It's a very gray zone, but we recommend don't risk it because you've declared your immigration intent. You've said that you want to immigrate to the US. EB1 is a green card. So if they find out that you've filed for adjustment of status, they might deny you an entry. So that's why we say to be safe, be in the US, apply for adjustment of status, get your travel documents, and you can go abroad, whatnot. But while you're waiting for your green card, you have to maintain a legal status.
So a question regarding this point, I remember I was exactly in that situation where I had my F1 visa valid. However, I already filed for adjustment of status, and my travel document expired, so I didn't know what to do. And I already had a ticket to fly out. Then the day before, I found on the USCIS website that once you use your F1 visa, you can enter with it. However, the moment you use it, your application for adjustment of status gets denied automatically. So since you entered with non-immigrant visa, right? Is that correct?
Yeah. So that's the thing, like, and that's what I did too. But it's what I'm saying is that you might get lucky and at the border they don't ask you and you just enter on your F1 visa. But if they ask you and if they look you up in the system, then they deny you an entry. Moreover, your EB1 petition for adjustment of status is deemed to have been abandoned because you left. So you don't want to risk. You don't want to risk. That's what we tell everyone. Like, this is just too high stakes to risk. That's why we say like, hey, just wait, get your travel document, and then travel. A travel document you can get like 4 or 5 months. So we're like, just wait, get the travel document, don't risk. don't risk your status because like they might deny you an entry. They will also cancel your underlying visa, and for the violation, there's just too many complications. So when you're applying for EB1, of course, like our attorneys will explain in detail, and if you have any travel plans or anything, they'll also go over it and like tell you what to do, what not to do. So that's why I highly recommend scanning this code, submitting, and you should also say that you're from the Kazakh research, the name of the group, so that they know. I'll just ping them. Yeah. So yeah,
One
those.
more question on EB1. So I was under the impression that EB1 for researchers, to apply for EB1 as a researcher, you must have your PhD completed. Is that true?
Yes, so the thing is, you don't have to, but like usually, like if you can abandon even your PhD, right? Like if you get a job offer and you're like, I don't want to finish my PhD, so long as you hit 2 of the 6 criteria, right? Like you've already had some materials published, you already have some press coverage, you reviewed a couple of manuscripts, the diploma per se is not required. So that's because for extraordinary ability visas, sometimes they don't even care if you have, finished even like high school or university. They don't really care. So long as you're extraordinary, like you won all international Olympiads in math, like you're a chess prodigy, you won everyone. They don't even need anything. So it really like depends on what visa type you're applying. I know we have limited time, so let's quickly go. So these are sample profiles. For example, EB1A, best-selling author, right? Like a published book translated into 15 languages, won several respected literary awards, a speaker at major like literary festivals. And this one is EB1B, tenured professor, author of articles related to machine learning algorithms, several industry patents and awards. And this is one is chief operating officer. Sorry. Oh, I see there are more questions. Oh, yeah. So for those who are planning to launch a company startup, well, I thought Murat obtained.
No, that's a different question, I think.
Oh,
So
okay, good.
I guess the EB2 you're gonna talk a little later, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna talk about EB2 shortly. So some ways to those that are planning to launch a company startup after PhD. The O1A visa is your visa. O1A is super easy for founders, especially because you just need to raise some venture funding. If you raise more than like 150, venture funding, you're good to go, because that's considered as an award. Venture funding is considered as an award, but it has to come from institutional investors. Institutional investors being professional VCs, not angels, so not individuals. And O1 visa for founders is super easy to get. Like we get so many O1 visas for founders. So that's relatively easy. And you should also schedule a call with our attorneys and Ali, and they'll go through your profile and they'll just tell you what are you missing and how to get ready for it. And then in the interest of time, EB2 NIW. So EB2 NIW, this is the category Murat went through. This is a category of visa. So there is EB2 and there is EB2 NIW. EB2 NIW means national interest waiver, which there are certain categories that USCIS decided it is important to the national interest of the US. So if your work falls within that category, then you can go through EB2 NIW. And the beauty of it is that, for example, if companies are applying just to regular EB2, they need to get a labor certification, which means they need to confirm there is no one in the US qualified for this job. They need to provide the test of the market saying no one has applied, so that's why we need to hire Murat. But because what Murat is doing is in national interest of the United States, they're like, we don't care if there are people qualified in the US. We want more because this is in national interest of the US. So that's why you don't have to go through labor certification, market test. And as a result, EB2 NIW is faster than EB2 just by itself. But right now, because this visa gotten so popular, there's a backlog of available visas. and average wait time right now is 2 years. So you can get your EB2 and IW. There are two steps, right? First, getting your EB2 and IW approved. You can get EB2 and IW approved now, but then you still wait for your visa to be available and to file for adjustment of status. So that's around 2 years. And during those 2 years, you need to be on some other type of visa. Usually people are on F1 STEM OPT or H1B or O1 visa. So you need to have some underlying legal status before you can file for adjustment of status. So quickly to go over it, you need to have a master's degree or higher, PhD, right? Or if you don't have master's degree or PhD, then you need to have 5 years of experience. Or you need to have exceptional ability in sciences, arts, or business. So this is similarly like if you don't have 5 years of experience after a bachelor, we go the route of EB1 and O1 and show you extraordinary ability. And in addition, you need to satisfy this national interest waiver criteria. There are two important, well, three things. The first one is proposed endeavor has both substantial merit and national importance. So substantial merit, it says like, okay, this is a valuable and worthwhile effort. So for example, if you're in STEM space, it has substantial merit right away. But if you want to open, for example, I don't know, some like manicure and pedicure salons, then it might be questionable, right? So long as it's in STEM field, you will satisfy substantial merit and national importance. It has to be some sort of research, some sort of project. If it's in, like, if you want to build a company, it can be a business plan of your company, whatnot. The second one is applicant is well positioned to advance the proposed endeavor, which means that you have the education and experience to push this endeavor forward. And the third one is that it is beneficial on the balance to the US to waive the job offer and labor certification requirements. This is what I've already talked about. So the key features is that it's the second fastest green card category after EB1. Of course, for Indian and Chinese, the wait time is 12 years. This is insane. And the beauty is that no job is required. No job offer is required. So that's a good part as well. Like you can just self-petition without a job. And premium processing is available for the first part of the step. And the second part, you just have to wait for around 2 years. Spouse and children get a green card automatically too. But there's the downside is that there is a potential backlog. And while you're waiting for your visa, you need to maintain some other legal status. So these are all the categories of visas. And I know, like, I went through a lot of information in a short period of time. So I highly recommend you scanning this code. And I'll also share the website where you can submit your profile. You copy it, submit it, and you will have an individual call with our consultants so that they can go through your specific profile and they'll be like, this is what you need, this is what you qualify for, the travels, the whatever visas you've held. You can go into nuances of everything, and it's a free consultation.
Awesome, great. So any more questions? Anya is raising a hand.
I
Please.
guess Camila has a question as well, so I'll let Camila go and then I can.
Yeah,
ask
feel
more
free to
questions.
unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. I was gonna ask, can one apply for NIW green card from outside of the US?
Yes, you just have to, like, once your EB2 NIW has been approved, and there's a backlog of 2 years before you apply for adjustment of status, right? So that's a gray zone where there's a question about the immigration intent. This is a question among all the attorneys. And there are 2 attorneys, 3 opinions. So what happens is that you got your approval for EB2 NIW, right? So half of the attorneys believe that until you file your adjustment of status, you have no immigration intent, because like you might change your decision within 2 years and abandon your EB2 NIW, right? So you have no immigration intent. Even if you have your EB2 NIW approved, you can still enter the US. That's what half of the attorneys believe. Half of the attorneys believe no, since your EB2 NIW got already approved, you have declared an immigration intent. So if you're abroad, you shouldn't be let into the United States. So there are two views. And, like I personally belong to the second category because I think situation might change. Like, prove me that like there's 100% certainty that in 2 years I'll apply for adjustment of status. I don't know, like life might change. I might get an amazing job abroad and don't enter the US. Like, this is not 100% certainty, right? So it's split opinions, but it's always about the risk tolerance of a person, because a lot of people are like, oh, I'm not going to risk it. Like, if they're going to deny me an entry, it's going to be in your travel history, right? But I was in a similar situation and I traveled and I was okay. But at the border, no one asked me any questions. They just let me in, right? They didn't ask me questions, but it was super risky. When I spoke about it with super experienced immigration attorneys, they were like, oh my God, why would you do that? It's so risky, right? So it's a risk. And of course, there's no judicial precedent. If there was someone who went through this process, they were denied an entry, and then they sued the USCIS and Customs Control, and then there was a decision, then we would all know. But there's no decision, so it's a gray area. But you definitely can, but the only concern is about travel to the US and like how to navigate this gray zone.
So then just to follow up on this question, but I think it's possible to file while you're living outside, so you stay throughout the whole process outside of US until you receive the green card, right?
Yeah.
But
You
does it
can.
take longer?
Yeah, it takes longer. So you definitely can do that. And if you don't have any plans to travel to the US in the next like 3 years, you can definitely just apply from Kazakhstan and you'll be fine. But the downside is that, yeah, the wait times are just like really long. When you're waiting inside of the US, or outside of the US, and the reason outside of US might be a little longer because when your visa is current, if you're in the US, you submit your documents to your USCIS and they can process it faster. But if you're abroad, in addition to that, you need to get a consular appointment. And in consular appointments in different countries might take longer. So it might end up being way longer than in the US. So that's why usually people prefer just to do everything from the US. And they prefer also not to travel, just in case,
Yeah, well, one more clarification here. So now we're talking about the second part of the EBW, EB2 NIW process, right? We got the approval. Now, do we do the adjustment of status while here in the US, or do we go back to Kazakhstan and get the immigration visa, right? And you're saying that the immigration visa takes longer, but also the adjustment of status is now almost 2 years. There's a backlog, you said. So in a way, I'm understanding that it might take the same time, or immigration visa might actually be faster than 2 years, right? Depending on which consulate you get into and that kind of stuff. But also, it's not required for you to go back and wait in your home country while you're waiting for the consulate appointment, right? So if you have a valid status here, let's say like I'm on F1 OPT in the US and I already got the EB2 approval. The second part of it is immigration. So it goes to that center, they process it, they schedule a consulate meeting appointment, and I could just buy a ticket and fly to the consulate to get my immigration visa and come back, right? So I don't have to go back to Kazakhstan and wait there for
Yes,
whoever
correct.
knows.
Correct.
Okay.
If you're, for example, when you're applying, you can say either like US or like consular, right? So you can be like, okay, like I want to do then consular later on. Life might change. I just might want to. And also you can be in any country. You don't have to be in Kazakhstan specifically if you decided to wait 2 years outside of US, because there's the situation with the visa, right? Like F1 OPT, the underlying visa. If you want to have that flexibility, that's also possible. So you're right. So, and also you don't have to go to the Kazakhstan consulate. You can go to a Canadian consulate. And recently we've seen a couple of people to actually go from Central Asia to Canada to Vancouver one, because they accept people from Central Asia and to process their visas. Because to be honest, Kazakhstan, US Embassy in Astana and Almaty, they have been such a pain because they're not properly trained on these types of talent visas. So they are taking everyone through an administrative processing, literally. Like because how it works is that USCIS is the ultimate agency that determines your eligibility for O1A, EB1, EB2, right? They're the agency. And then it goes to the adjustment of status. What you're doing during the adjustment of status is literally they have to determine the question of your admissibility to the US. Have you committed crimes? Were you part of guerrilla groups or communistic party? You know the standard question when you want to immigrate to the United States. They need to make sure, do you present any danger to the US society? But in Kazakhstan, for some reason, they started looking into USCIS authority. They literally start questioning all the criteria. Like, oh, is this award is a good award? Like, this is not their authority, but like, what you can do with the US consulate? Like nothing, right? So that has been a pain, a big pain. So now we're just recommending you should go to Canada because they're better trained. They know that whatever they're not supposed to be doing, they shouldn't do. And it's also high volume, right? Like they have so many people, they have no time to investigate every single criteria, versus in Kazakhstan, that's what they're doing. And it's so upsetting because a couple of people got stuck because they needed to get a stamp and they got stuck. And yeah, so that's been like, to be honest, I don't recommend. Like also people from Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, I'm like, don't go there. Just go to Canada, go to Vancouver and get it done there because they understand better, they're trained better. They don't question why USCIS approved your petition. That's none of their business, right? So yeah.
Yeah, I guess, but for that you would need a Canadian visa. That's one. And the one quick follow-up question. So at which point then do I choose which consulate I want to go to, like Kazakhstan or Canada?
Oh, later. You don't have to worry about it. Like consular processing, and when it comes closer to like your visa number becomes available, this is when you just like, okay, like you mentioned you put consular processing, so you're like, I want to go to Kazakhstan. So
Yelbir had a question.
Yeah, I had a question. I asked it before from people who are not experts, but since you're an expert, I hope you'll give a more proper answer. So I formally, my what do you call that? Scholar profile on Google looks good because I was part of a big collaboration. I was in high energy physics. And I have like, I don't know, let me tell you, 660 citations. My H index is 14. I guess it's good enough on paper for EB2 at least. But the problem is that when you're in a large collaboration, people who know how it works, they know it's BS by the end of the day, because the collaboration did it as a whole. There are 10,000 people in CMS, 4,000 people in CMS collaboration in US alone. Overall, probably more if you count Europe. So, everyone does some job for CERN, for the Large Hadron Collider, and boom, you get a paper. So if I wonder, like, do people who evaluate those cases, do they look at that and say, well, no, that doesn't count? Or do they only care about the formal criteria?
the formal criteria and evidence of it is the most important, because at the end of the day, if someone investigates, they also need to show, but he had evidence, this is this and that. And it's also the attorney's job to present it in the best light. So what's important to note for O1, EB1, EB2, and IW, we get the recommendation letters, right? Recommendation letters from people. We draft those recommendation letters and we know what those recommendation letters should mention, should say, and how do we then position it in your supporting statement? Because attorney usually writes like 20 to 30 pages supporting statement where they highlight everything. And USCIS, your package is going to be like from 600 to 1,500 pages. So they don't have time to go everything. And they usually go through what attorney wrote. So a good attorney would highlight everything in the right way so that it is easy for USCIS adjudicator to approve your petition, and they also don't get worried that what if someone comes and investigates, well, how did I approve this petition, right? So we collect all the evidence in the proper way. So we highlight it, you know, because like in the recommendation letters, even though there are a lot of contributors, we focus on the significance of your contribution, how you were how you played critical and essential role, right? So we focus those letters on that. So yeah, that's not your worry. You talk to our attorneys, they qualify you, and from there we'll take it on and we'll put a strategy around your profile.
But those recommendation letters, so you're saying you're drafting them, and then, but I thought there should be coming from professionals in my field.
Yeah, so you tell us these are the 5 to 6 recommenders that agreed to sign my letters. You provide their backgrounds, and we write a recommendation letter as if it's coming from them. So we would be like, this is so, and then they of course read it. They read it, and before all of them they do, because like if I'm signing a recommendation letter, I want to see what I'm writing, right? So they read it and then they sign it. So this is their signature. They basically confirm. And usually how it goes is that, for example, you say like, I worked at this, we worked on this research with this professor. This professor is very well known in their space. We want people like that who have incredible reputation, because if they're willing to sign your recommendation letter, you piggyback off their reputation and credentials. So the stronger your recommenders are, the better it is. For example, when I was applying for O1, one of my recommenders was Supreme Court judge from Kyrgyzstan. Another one was a leader of a political party. The third one was like the rector, president of one of the biggest universities. So like their accomplishments, their reputation, and the fact that they're saying you're top in your field plays a huge role, because that's how USCIS determines. Like I've seen, for example, recommendation letters from Jan LeCun, right? And of course, like Jan LeCun is like, he's signing your recommendation letter, like you're good. So it's really about the professors and recommenders who are giving you recommendation letters. Their reputation also really matters, because we literally like, oh, and another recommender of mine was a professor from Harvard Law School, deputy dean of the Harvard Law School. So we basically talk about like him for 2 pages. He's the deputy dean of the Harvard Law School. He's done this and this and this. He published this many books. And then we attach all of his evidence as well, saying, see, he's an amazing person. He doesn't give recommendation letters to random people. He's giving it to me, so he thinks I'm exceptional. So we built it so that, you know, you look better in your strategy.
Okay. And then one last question. But the problem is also I changed field. So I was in high energy. Now I'm in theoretical astrophysics. So does that affect the situation?
That's such a good question. We sometimes, you know, we get it a lot with engineers because they've done Web3, NFT, and now they're doing AI, right? And it's like, oh, how do we? And what we do is that like we abstract the expertise. So for example, we literally had this engineer, and we couldn't say he's an expert in Web3 or NFTs, because then USCIS would be, but why he's doing AI now? It's irrelevant, right? So we said that we abstracted that he's an expert in complex distributed systems and system design, which is like applicable to NFT, Web3, and AI. These are complex model systems, right? So we extract something that is like an area of expertise that could be applicable to both. So this is how we build a story. Or there was another client of ours. She was a TV anchor, like she was a journalist, and she was a TV anchor at a TV, and then she was a product manager, and now she's investing. And for the first time, you're like, what's her area of expertise even, right? But then we figured that it's in transportation and energy, because like now she focuses on transportation and energy, because before, as TV anchor, she focused on primarily transportation and energy spaces. So even though you've done different things, we are able to like abstract. So that's what good attorneys do. They talk to you and they're like, okay, regardless you did different things, we can tie it all together, build a nexus, and build your area of expertise. So you don't worry about that. You come and talk to attorneys and they'll be like, let's put your expertise this, you know?
I see. Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I highly recommend, I highly recommend you all submit your profiles and get a free consultation. And yeah, and we would love to work with you for EB1, EB2, and AW. We're charging $8,000 as a legal fee plus USCIS fees. We work super fast. We have 100% approval rate, and we're happy to support you on this journey so that it's easy for you.
Thank you very much, Aizada. This was amazing session, and I think a lot of people learned. I learned a lot of things myself, and everyone will. If you can share your, yeah, we have the link. We'll share it within our members. Thanks for your time, and if you can also share your presentation, that would be also amazing. They get the information. Those who couldn't attend.
Yes,
So
I
have
will.
a wonderful rest of the weekend.
You
Thanks for
too.
your time.
Thank you so much, all of you, for showing up. And yeah, just on LinkedIn, just ping me if any questions. And yeah, I'll tell our attorneys to do a free consultation
I
with you too.
personally am going to fill out because I might be your client for my wife, and there's some legal situations going on. So yeah. All
Great.
right.
Sounds great. Thank you so much. Have a
Thank
great
you.
day. All. Bye.
Bye bye.